What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Flying with the Flock. My name is Ryan Mahoney. Um, I'm actually super excited today to have Beau join me. We're used to doing a lot of real estate and mortgage content, but I think everybody out there knows how much I love to go see live music and just how much I'm actually missing that right now. It's the one thing where it legitimately pisses me off that there's no summer tour or anything like that going on anywhere. It's probably the first time in my life that's happened. Um, so Beau actually is, I guess you're a mixer, right, Beau?
Yeah, absolutely.
The- the-
So yeah, what the band
and, you,
hears while they're on stage is what I produce for them. So
and he's been on tour with a handful of bands. More recently was on tour with Tool, which was actually the last show that I went to see before COVID hit. I wanted to bring Beau on just to kind of hear some of his experience and thoughts. And as we all know, the entertainment industry is pretty much non-existent right now. And me and Beau have talked. There's a lot more people involved in the business than just the artists that you see on stage, and a lot of folks right now that are incredibly impacted by COVID and all that stuff. So um, tell us a little bit about how you got started, Beau, and kind of what's going on now, man. And
well, first off, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And yeah, this industry's, this whole thing's been nuts. I mean, for the last 6 months, it's just been absolutely nuts. I got started back in, what was it, 2000, I guess it was. I went to a school down in Florida called Full Sail, and I went for recording art. So, anything in the studio, sort of recording, any of that sort of vibe. Um, and then in my experience going through that, I decided I didn't want to be in a studio 18 hours a day basically, and decided to look at the live side of things. And when I did that, discovered there was a whole lot of more opportunity than the studio world had to offer. And so I decided to kind of make my move towards that. And fortunately, I got hired as soon as I graduated. I got hired by a company out of Pennsylvania called Claire Brothers, which is now Claire Global. And did so I went up and basically started with them, doing an internship, and then went into touring. They obviously you start small and kind of work your way through the ranks, but when I first started, all the big speakers and everything you see when you go to a concert in an arena, club, wherever it may be. You start out by learning to tech those and fly those, put those in the air, bring them back down, and off you go. And then you kind of
mhm.
work your way up you know, as you build your reputation, if you will. So that all started back in 2000. And then, you know, kind of, I want to say my big break, but, the first band that I actually started mixing was, I was out with Green Day and started mixing the opening acts. Uh, I forget everything. It was Newfound Glory or something like that. I can't remember, but
Okay. Hmm.
uh, so I was already on the tour as one of the techs, and they needed somebody to mix monitors for that band because they were just small enough, just didn't bring anybody. So anyway, started mixing for them, and then the following year, I think that was in '04. Following year in '05, the beginning of that, the gentleman that was mixing monitors for Green Day, who now works full time for Dave Grohl, is
Okay.
he that was his opportunity. He was a drum tech for Dave Grohl in the early '90s in Nirvana and things like that. Then moved his way up into mixing, and then he was doing a Green Day tour. Dave Grohl wanted him back, so offered him a full time gig. And
And when you
anyways,
say
Green
mixing,
Day,
you're basically you put the sound back into the band and what they're listening to, right? Is it like
exactly,
how's
yeah.
that work,
So
man?
So yeah, I mean, every member on stage is going to want to hear something, uh, so they can play. I mean, you think of going to a club or something like that, a small club, whatever. You see the big wedges up in front. Look like speakers that they stand on, that they're in front of, and that sort of thing.
Mhm.
That's producing sound back to them. And what that is, it's completely different from, what the audience hears.
Okay.
Each member hears something, even on stage. Each member hears something different from the other. So, let's we'll reference Tool for now, but you like Adam Jones, a guitar player, he's got wedges and in ears in, and he's listening to different things. Justin Chancellor, the bass player, he's listening to something totally different than Adam is. Same with Danny, and same with Maynard. So
And it's your
each
job
individual person,
to input all that stuff to them?
correct, yeah.
Okay.
So each individual instrument is mic'd up. It all comes to a big mixing desk, and each one of those channels comes to the mixing desk, and then we manipulate it from there to whatever the artist will hear. And just as much as having a mixing skill as it is, kind of reading minds and personalities, because you have to know what they're looking for, what they're asking for, how to communicate with them, because that's just the way you figure it out. They may, artists, obviously I've worked for a lot of great artists and I'm very thankful for that, but some artists don't know how to communicate that. They don't know how to tell me what they're aiming for, what they want to hear. Certain parts in songs, they want to hear something different from another part of the song. So you got to work that into a show and
Gotcha.
things like that, and it all works, it all works together.
Like
You kind of figure it out along the way.
it's kind of I bet it's one of those things where over time it's just probably becomes intuitive for everybody if it all meshes together and you
Right.
guys build a solid relationship. Then it's it's kind of cool how that all works together, man. And then
It
you can
is.
kind
It's
of figure
fun.
out like
Once
because
you
you've
build that relationship, everything, it becomes a lot more smoother, a lot more fun. I mean, they got to trust you. They got to understand, because a lot of my position as well is when they look to the side of the stage and they see me standing there, or whoever it may be for any particular act, excuse me, it's a comfort level for them, and so when they get on that stage and they're in front of 20,000 people, they've got to have that comfort while they're on stage, knowing that that person standing next to them, whether it's guitar tech, whether it's a monitor engineer, drum tech, all these people that are on stage and performing during the show, they have to have full confidence in what's going on.
and
So
yeah, that's cool, man. I can see how you could form a solid relationship with those guys doing a decent job and all kind of working together out there, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with Tool, like I started mixing them back in 2006. Um, and I did my first tour with them though before I even started mixing them back in 2002. So,
What'd you do
we've got a
before you
long.
started mixing for them?
I'm sorry.
What'd you do before you started mixing for them?
Uh, Going back to that beginning conversation, I was just out as a PA tech. So all the big
Okay.
speakers and stuff that was up there that we would, that you put up in the air, I was just teching those at that point in time. And, then I started, like I said, moved into mixing Green Day back in 2005. And Green Day came off the roads. Tools getting ready to go out with 10,000 Days record cycle. And I'd built a relationship with them. I've known them, for over a couple of years, and they'd asked me to do it, you know,
Yeah.
thankfully. And so I was able to, and we worked it out. And, you know, I don't think I've done every show since 2006 they've done. I know there's been a couple stints, where they'd have a small run or something like that, and I was already out doing something else, so we'd have to find somebody else to fill in. But yeah, I've pretty much done everything since 2006
Since
with them.
that cracks me up, man, because I remember when I first met you and I was asking you about what you did, and you said you were a mixer and all that, and then for Tool, and I'm like, wait, so you pretty much have seen every show since '06? Like, that's crazy, man. Maybe a few in between, but
Yeah,
that's cool. Well, dude,
and I've,
obviously there is like nothing going on in that world for obvious reasons.
Right.
Um, what's the word, man? We were getting into it a little bit before this with obviously crew and you know what do we do? I don't even know if there's an answer to that right now, Beau. But
To be honest, for anybody out there, and this includes us as well, I mean, to be blatant and upfront about it, get a hold of your Congress and Senate and everybody above and put their feet to the fire. Try to get them to start talking about it. We're raising awareness as much as we can. We're doing everything we can to get that because I mean, and I'm not trying to sound political by any means, but for right now, there is really nobody taking a stance on it above uh, trying to help our industry out at this point. You got some people starting to talk about it, but it's been months and months in the making, trying to get people to listen.
yeah,
And the more people that talk about it, the more people that uh, you know contact your Congress, contact your Senate, all that sort of stuff, the better. And
yeah,
hopefully they will help. Number one, they'll help, maybe provide some financial assistance to, I mean, just rough numbers, but we roughly got 12 million people sitting at home not doing anything because of this business being, our industry being shut down. Um, they're needing assistance because there's nothing to be had in that industry. I mean, every one of us is having to pivot and having to try to find something else to bring in revenue at this point. So,
yeah.
and unemployment, it definitely helped for a little while, but then that was, narrowed down. And, now you got a lot of people that are not, I mean, they just have no way of making any money in our industry at this point. And so now everybody's going to have to, going to have to go find something else, whether it's Amazon, whether it's McDonald's, whether it's, you know, your buddy's landscaping business, whatever it may be. Everybody's
Right,
got to find
right.
something just to try to make ends meet. And it really sucks because you're not going to find anybody else in an industry somewhere that has more passion than everybody that works in this industry does.
And it's much like
And
everything else too, right? It's a small little, tight knit industry and community where, as you know, you've worked for many bands. I'm sure there's guys that are putting up speakers and doing all kinds of stuff for multiple bands and multiple tours. So everybody kind of gets to know each other out there, right? It's fairly,
absolutely,
I mean, it's a big industry, but I would imagine it's pretty small once you're kind of inside of it, right? So you see all these
yeah.
people
Once
that are
you
impacted by it.
once you get in the door, yeah, you figure it out pretty quick. It is. It's a very small industry when it comes to people, knowing the people that are good, the bad, the ugly. Um, so that's that's the hard part. And it's a lot of, like you say, I mean, you love going to shows and things like that, but it's not a primary expense for you. I mean, you don't,
Right.
when you look at your monthly budget, you're not looking at an entertainment budget. I mean, you may because you love shows, but it's but on an average person, they're not calculating that into their monthly budgets, right? They're trying to make their power bills, their mortgages, their rents, whatever it may be. Um, so when it comes to the entertainment side and the live side, the Broadways, you start looking down the road, nobody's really looking at that. Nobody thinks about that, and that's
A
where
lot of the you mentioned Dave Grohl. Ironically enough, though, I saw him put out an article about all of like the smaller venues that are big that like him and Nirvana and all these guys like came up through and performed in front
Mhm.
of a couple hundred people or 50 people. And he was basically saying like these places where a lot of the artists get their start, which for us, like I know some of the guys at the Fillmore down here and what the neighborhood theater or whatever, some of these smaller places are really, you know, he's are going to be out of business. He said they're going to be non-existent, right? Even
Yeah,
some of the
that's
bars, I guess, too, Bo.
absolutely. I mean, that's when, like, the neighborhood theater, for example. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's still an independent venue. The independent venues are ones that are going to get hit the hardest, and they're already being hit, and they're already struggling. And who knows if they're going to make it through. And You know, you're talking about the Fillmore. The Fillmore is Live Nation owned, and Live Nation being, you know, the big giant in the business. Um, but you can't really, you know, you can't really look at Live Nation and go, "Oh, they'll be fine," but they're gonna take on so much debt over this time, you know,
Yeah.
um, to make sure that all these venues and make sure all this stuff stay afloat and their people, you know. But there's so many people, you know, you don't think about it. When a band goes on the road, uh, you know, there's the booking agents, there's the, you know, the management teams, the business management teams, all these people that are behind this act that have to sign off on said thing and produce routing and produce all this stuff that now have nothing to do because there's no touring. So all these
Right.
people are getting furloughed as well, you know. So for us to pick this industry back up and get going again, there's going to be a lot more than just, you know, hey, let's go tour and jumping on a tour bus and grabbing some gear and going. It's not that easy. And you know, Live Nation's already restructured their deals the way that they're going to do deals in the future, good, bad, or otherwise. And a lot of people are going to have to do the same. So, you know, say if let's just say for, you know, if Tool want to get back out and go do shows again, you know, there's people that have been furloughed without in these agencies that usually book their tours and usually get these things up and running even before it hits me, um, that are not there anymore. So
Gotcha.
you're gonna have to either bring them back on, you got to bring them up to speed, you have to, you know, all this sort of stuff has to happen. Not to mention all the health protocols that's going to have to go into place to get these things up and running. Um, you know, from the crews to the band to, I mean, everything. You look at like NBA right now, they're in a bubble down in Orlando or wherever they're at. You know,
Right.
they're in a bubble. I mean, they're literally the crew, the teams, everybody is in lockdown, and it's like 100 and some days that they're in lockdown, right? Because they're supposed to not venture out of this bubble till it's done. But you think about a touring, you know, you've got, you know, the numbers from Tool when we were doing our arena runs last year and this past year. You know, you've got 18, what's 17 tractor trailers. You've got 10 tour buses. You've got, you know, and that's just what's rolling down the road. That's going to
Right.
be, you know, close to 80 people. That's whatever. So you start thinking about those 80 people are leaving, going in and out of the venue every day. How are you going to do the health protocols for them? How are you getting your crew to these tours? You know, you got to fly them. All right. There's a massive risk in flying. You know, once you get them there, what are you doing? You know, it's so many things that are up in the air. And
Yeah.
you got these, you know, when you roll into a city, you know, we're used to being able to, if we had a night off or a day off, you got, you know, going out to a restaurant, um, you know, then you're exposing yourself to another, you know, layer of people that could potentially have something that you're bringing back to a tour of 80, 90 people that put on a show that could potentially be detrimental, you know.
Right. Right.
So you gotta, you know, there's so many pieces to this, and this is only the surface to this thing, for our industry, and it's crazy. It really is. I
Yeah.
mean, we did,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure you probably saw the whole red alert thing from yesterday, and it
Yep.
literally is just something that, um, people put together to raise awareness. And again, it's just about making, you know, trying to get people to go talk to their senators, their congressmen, and just trying to get it up the ladder, get people talking above the ladder to actually look at our industry and look at, you know, the financial effect of it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's it's definitely sad, man. It's there's so much more to every industry that, you know, on the surface is it just looks like a band going on tour and you have your artists and that's it. But it's there's the other thing that I think is interesting is I've read all kinds of music books and all that stuff and the documentaries, but one thing that's always stood out to me is the Grateful Dead actually talked about how they knew they were going through hard times with health and drugs and all this other stuff, but it was such a hard decision for them to actually stop touring when they know they should, because there was such a big amount of people behind them that they employed on tour and marketing and records and whatever it was, that they knew that if they shut it down, that it was going to impact so many people, not just those guys on stage, you know. And now that's what we're talking about now, you know, is
Yeah.
that whole, like, the COVID is just, it's impacting that long tail of people that are driving the trucks to playing the guitar, you know. So
Well, not to
it's
mention
that
you've got the
overweight.
local crews that come in and out, that help us get everything up and going every day in every city. Whether they're union, whether they're just local, what we call stagehands.
Mhm.
So in a decent sized show, you're looking at, it could be 100, could be to 200 people that are coming in every
That
day.
are,
And
yeah,
it's a different group of people every city. So there's the financial is not just the touring act and the crew that they employ. You've got to look at every local person that's involved in every single show in every single city. you know so there's the financial impact is massive.
it's
And you've
crazy.
got so many, when touring was, say, the beginning of the year, this year was scheduled to be one of the biggest touring years of all time. The amount of every show that comes through, that amount of people has to be at every single show. So
Right,
you
right.
think just in like Charlotte, of every show that comes in, and that's just, I mean, that's a pretty big show. You're thinking of like the amphitheater or the arena. But even down to, the Fillmore, they're hiring stagehands, they're hiring local people as well. I mean, there's just so many different pieces to the puzzle that
Yeah, yeah.
nobody has a clue about, because obviously, I've seen in some of these posts, it's like, if we're doing our job, you don't see us, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's, nobody really knows. Everybody comes to a show and loves it and has a great time and goes home. They don't really understand what all goes into it.
What's
And
behind it
that's the biggest thing, is raising awareness for that, so we
for
can
all
get
those
this thing
people
back in,
involved?
back in working order at some point in time, hopefully in the near
Exactly.
future.
I'll Yeah, I posted that stuff out. I'll link all the red alert stuff in this, and that way we can kind of push it out there, man, and bring some awareness to it all, you know.
Yeah.
So, well, dude, I appreciate it, man. This is I'm so fascinated by the music and particularly the music industry as a whole, and it's heartbreaking for me to see this, is because, dude, I'm just a regular fan and consumer at that point, but getting to know, like, you know, you, and I have a buddy down in Atlanta that runs the Tabernacle, a couple of friends down at the Fillmore. One of them I was just texting with last night. He's been furloughed, man, for a couple months. So
Hmm.
um, it's sad, but hopefully we can bring some awareness to it all, man. And one of these days, hope that we can go see some live shows again, and hopefully it'll get better, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get some going sooner than later. It just, the biggest unfortunate part is it just happens to be on election year here in the States. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah. Yeah.
maybe the process of getting back to normal may have been slowed down a little bit because of that. So we're, uh, we're hopeful that, next year is shine some light on everything and we can get back to something.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too, man. Well, another quick plug before I let you go, Beau. For those of you that were aware of our cooler giveaway, thank Beau for that. And
Oh, thank you.
that was that was awesome, man. The girl on Lizzie in Texas was super appreciative. So
Awesome.
great coolers there. So different, like Beau was saying, he's had to find some other avenues to make some money now that the um, entertainment industry has been pretty much shut down. So Maluna coolers, quick plug in there. We'll probably give another one away at some point. But thanks a lot, Beau.
Just let me
Appreciate
know.
you taking some time, dude, and talking with me. And let's
Well,
hope for
thank
the
you. Yeah,
best for some live tunes again.
absolutely. Yeah, thanks again. And yeah, Maluna Coolers, you'll be seeing some bigger things come out of that here pretty soon. So that'll be
Awesome.
great. Thanks, Ryan. I really
Sounds good.
appreciate it.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
See you, brother.